Today we are mostly fixing a drill. For sure I'm going to fix Elliot's oil leak because he has driven me mad over the years, dribbling oil. And again, he's got a seal that's gone somewhere, so I'm going to get his seal fixed. I may even paint him. I may keep him. I don't know what to do. It's one of them, isn't it? Do I really need two amazing pillar drills? Hey y'all. The last time you saw Elliot, he did not look like this. There was some talk about selling Elliot, getting rid of Elliot, the pillar drill. Had a change of heart, decided to keep him, and I've stripped him down. There are all the components out of Elliot's belly, and I've just give everything one coat of brushed on primer, undercoat. I'm going to get some top coat sprayed on it today, and I thought what I'd do, rather than showing me tearing the whole thing down, which is pretty straightforward. There was a couple of little tricky bits which I will show you when I reassemble, hopefully. Try and get this thing put back together again. Well, the meddings came and I put him there, so what I've done is slid the meddings over to the left, took that shelf down or cupboard that was above it. I'm going to put Elliot in the centre because he's slightly more dainty than the meddings, and the mill. I've moved the mill up, and I'm just going to move the lathe up a little bit as well. Just juggle everything around so there's a good position between everything. There's the back column off Elliot. Again, it's a solid piece of steel. Massive weight, probably well over £100 there. Also, you might notice I bought one of these cheap DRO kits for the mill, which I'm looking forward to fitting, getting on. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm sure I'll be able to do it. I've also bought that for the milling machine, new motor. So we're going to put a new motor on him. It's machine month. So here we are, two top coats of the famous Myford Grey. It had to be painted this because the original factory putty that they put on these castings was badly cracked. The saving grace was that it came off pretty easy. Well, I thought whilst the paint's drying on all the parts, I'd have a go at refitting this spring which came out when I stripped the drill. Didn't want it to, but it did. That's the spindle for the quill that brings the quill down, and that's the holder that holds the spring. You see, you've got a bit of a problem here. I've just tried 3 different methods of trying to get that damn spring in there because it's an utter nightmare. That spring has obviously got to be compressed within those tabs on there. I just cannot physically wind it up enough to hold it in place, and then drop that into there whilst the spring is totally wound. So I've tried it in the lathe. Tried holding that spindle in the lathe and twisting the spring around that, and then trying to put the cap on. That was impossible. I've tried winding it on the bench a couple of different ways, and I've just thought of a way I can possibly do it, so I'm going to try that. 4th time lucky. Yeah, I think this is going to work. So put it into my forge yaw, and I am literally winding the spring up, tightening it up, and then clamping the jaws down to reduce the size of the spring. And there's some real tension on this. Gonna kind of want to get to 50 mil to get it back in, I think. Yeah, 50 mil. Not there yet. You can see how big it is. That I'm gonna have to kind of lock the chuck up so it doesn't, so it stops turning, because as I'm winding it up it's turning the actual lathe. Got to a point now where I need another hand, literally. Still too big. 52 mil. Won't go in. Still 2 mil too big. I'll carry on. Okay, my plan was to put the mould grips in there and hold it together and then slot it into there. But I am just not going to be able to get my mould grips in that. There's no way. So, plan 5 is to lever that off halfway, or maybe a bit more, and then get it sat inside that, and then push it all the way in and hope it doesn't explode. Yeah, it will. That's in now. That is in. Okay. Can I hold that on there? No, because it's nowhere near the centre. Ah. Right, okay. That won't really help me, other than, no, it won't help me at all. I'm going to get something bigger to lever that off. I'd really rather not have my hand near that spring if it goes. It's in! It is in. How the hell would you get that in there without that spring? I reckon that spring's way too big for there, but anyway, it's in. And I think the rest of this thing now is just going to be plain sailing. While stripping this, I was searching for the elusive oil seal that causes the oil to run down the spindle quill and down onto the chuck and down onto the work and down onto the table, and all the way through stripping this I could not find any seals, especially on this. And guess what? I have just found the seal. Oh my god, I'm so pleased. So the seal actually goes around the back gear spindle, which is that. So the back gear spindle fits up inside the body, and I've just located this little thing on underneath the so I've just found this, and it was actually underneath the bearing, and that is what the oil seal, it's trapped, it's hidden. You've got the bearing as you look down from the top, and then right down in the belly of the beast was this little ring, and it was locking up this oil seal against the bearing. Almost impossible to see, but I just discovered it because I wondered what those little tabs were. And anyway, I've got it out. That's the bearing. Sorry, that's the oil seal, completely mullered. It's gone really stiff and hard. So, and it's a metal case bearing, so it probably was the original bearing that the drill press was fitted with. so I can now order a replacement seal. I've got my dimensions there, and we can fit that, and it is not such a wasted exercise, because without finding that seal, this drill press would have just been the same, dribbling oil down the quill, down the shaft, down the chuck. And I mean, my idea was to literally remove the oil from the head, from this back gear assembly, and just pack the whole thing solid with grease. I didn't really want to do that, but that was my other option. But now we've found that goddamn seal, we can overcome. My oil seals arrived today, so yesterday couldn't really do much, so I made this stand for the drill press. Basic, simple angle iron construction, and I've put the base on. I've fitted the column to the base and put the table on, so it is now ready for the head to be fitted. And I welded 4 rails on the side and there for 2 fairly deep drawers to put all the bits of tooling in. So it's time to fit those pesky bearings. So this was the collar that was hiding the O-rings, and as I said, it was right up inside the machine, and it was undone by placing a flat piece of steel in there and undoing it. It had 2 metal cased oil seals inside it, which probably came original with the machine. So I think it had 2. My best guess is there was 2 seals in there and not just 1. So I've ordered 2 seals, approximate fit. I'm going to put those in there. Then there's 2 chances. There's 2 sort of springs in there then, isn't there? Behind the seal, holding it against the shaft rather than just one bigger one with 1 spring. There was 2 springs on when I had to cut these apart, these oil seals, to get them out with the hacksaw. So yeah, we'll get those pressed in there. Yeah, my other oil leak on Elliot was this. There's a lever here that changes the back gear, and it's always dribbled oil down around that little bushing, and there was no way of putting a seal on that I could see, because that's it. So the oil was simply running down the shaft and drooling down there, and I've tried several different ways of putting things on the outside over the years. Nothing's ever worked. But when I came to take this off and strip it down, what I found was that groove in the shaft itself. So I have approximated what size O-ring that would be off the vernier calipers, and I've bought a couple of those this morning. Well, they came this morning. So now we have an O-ring in there, which should stop the oil seeping down. My other option was to put this on the mill and mill a recess into that so that I could fit an oil seal around it. I probably could have got an oil seal, but the only trouble is there really isn't that much thickness in that part. It would have left the inside really thin, and there's a big lump there. That big lump is kind of hanging on to this face. If I mill too much of that face away, there's a likelihood that this lever will just pull that off, because it's weakening it around there. So let's try this oil seal there. It's a little O-ring, and see if that gets the job done. I've just made a gasket for this, just a cornflake paper gasket. Takes me back to my old days of when I was a kid, prattling around with the old British motorbikes, leaking oil everywhere. So yeah, so I've got the gasket made. Let's carry on. So for anyone wanting to know where you locate the spindle or the shaft oil seals for the Elliot drill on this particular model, they are down up from the bottom, and you've somehow got to drop that down there, because there's no other way to access it other than that hole. So you've kind of just got to drop it in and then try and tighten it up, which is what I'm going to try and do. An option would be to maybe put that in and let it slide down. We'll try and get something to tighten it down with. So I'll try my ruler. Just see if I can get those threads started. Not easy. Not easy, guys. And yes, we have it. We have it. Get a more substantial piece of steel in there. And I reckon that will do. Jolly good. So I've got to try and remember what came out next. I'm pretty sure it was the back gear assembly that came out next. Last night I spent about an hour sort of figuring out where all these little screws and things go. So it's going to be pretty much easier today to get all these bits and bobs together. So there we have the back gear. Which is different to other Elliots I've seen this setup here. That engages with the lever I was showing you that's always leaked oil, so it pushes that up and it engages onto that back gear, and then when you drop the lever down, I don't know which one's which, it allows that to spin because it's been geared off that, and when we push the back gear up it engages on that and drives that. So that's the way it goes in. Put it back together. Well, you can see the winning post. It's in sight and then it takes 3 hours to drop 2 gears in. Right. I'll come back in the next one, guys. We'll get it all finished off. Big thank you to all my patrons once again. See you all quite soon. Bye for now.